Hi, Rod Peppiatt from the Avenue Uniting Church in Blackburn in Victoria. We're continuing today the short series. We're coming to the end of a short series on the vision statement and mission principles of the Uniting Church in Victoria and Tasmania. And we've been looking over that over the last few weeks to think about our purpose and how we do and why we do what we do. And the particular mission principle that we're looking at today is our calling to, and I quote, pursue God's mission in partnership. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I'll read firstly from the gospel reading that I've chosen for today. And it comes from John's Gospel, chapter 15, which is part of that great big narrative in John's Gospel of the Last Supper of Jesus and his disciples. And chapter 15 is a really well-known statement by Jesus and an image that he uses to describe the relationship between he and his disciples. So John 15. I am the true vine, says Jesus, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I've spoken in you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit. Any day now, the congregation here at the Avenue will become suspicious that I really like this image of the vine from John chapter 15. And they'll be right. It comes up a lot in my thinking and in our worship leading. Now that's not because it's a catch-all image or passage or anything like that. It's not one that I just trot out whenever I can't think of anything else. And it's not just that I like a nice drop of red or white. I do, but it's not that. It's just that it's such a rich image. There's so much in it as we think about and as we practice discipleship, as we practice following the way of Jesus in our world as best we can. This image, the vine, speaks to us of our relationship to the holy life within and beyond us, and the need to attend to that life if our lives are to be fruitful and creative. It says to us that just as the fruit derives its identity and character from the type of vine, so too do we, as branches of the Jesus vine, if you like. And today, as we focus on our calling to pursue God's mission in partnership, the image reminds us of another truth, that we are not the only branch. The vine is more than just us. I've been doing a little bit of thinking about vines because of the fact that we got a new fence at our home this year. And a couple of vines needed to be removed as we did that, mostly because they were all that was holding up the old fence. And so they were cut back and pulled out, and then once the new fence was in place, they were replanted, and they're doing pretty well. And as they began to take off, we've needed to do a little bit of training to head them where we want them to go. But it was really interesting in the early stages of their regrowing to watch the branches head off in different directions as the vine started to grow again. All with their own purpose and their own direction, but all connected to the vine itself and dependent on its life for theirs. I wonder what the other branches of the Jesus vine around us are doing and how they're doing. I actually know a little bit of how the other uniting churches around us are doing through my work with the presbytery, the wider part of our church. And I know how some of the other churches in our area are going, because Joe and I and a number of others from here are connected to them and with them through Whitehorse Church's care. For those watching who aren't aware, Whitehorse is the region of our city. We are in the Melbourne city of Whitehorse. And the connection that I've talked about, I think, is important, because part of the faith we share is the aim to bear fruit together, not in competition but in cooperation, to grow followers of the way of Jesus. The richness of the vine is shown in the creativity and the fruitfulness of all its branches, not just one. Like many others here, I'm involved in work with other faith vines as well, not simply or not only the Jesus vine. And that too is really important. In fact, it's vital to the health of the vine. And as we know, apart from anything else, some of the most interesting and tasty wines are blends of different varietals. I'd like to simply share a story with you that I think speaks of the value of partnership in the mission of God. Some of you have heard bits of it, but that's okay. A few weeks ago, I attended an event in the community space at Forest Hill Chase called Making Space. And it was a good night. It was a great night, actually. And part of it was a deep sharing and a deeply personal and at times traumatic storytelling by a very brave person. And it was a story of survival through abuse over a very long time, some of it perpetrated by Christian people and on church premises. Now, I'm not going to share that fully because it's not my story. But that person has somehow managed to find a way back to faith through encounters with people who listened, who took them seriously, who prayed for them when they weren't allowed to pray with them. And they loved that person. That person told us that night, there are a lot of people like me. You won't see us in your churches because our experience of church has made that unsafe. But if you're willing to sit with us in spaces like this, the community space, there are people who are longing for healing experience of God. The community space may be a welcoming and safe place for the way of Jesus to be shared. It won't most likely involve in posteriors on pews on Sundays, but our mission calling is more than that. Our first song this morning began with the words, "Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live." It's a great song and we sing it really well. And I think we practice it too. I think my sense is that when we gather on Sundays and when we do things in this place, it is a place of welcome. The story that I've just shared makes me wonder how we might grow that welcome in other places, in the places where the community is 6-7 days a week. How we might do that in partnership with the other branches of it, the Jesus vine. I want to invite us to spend some time in thought on that. For those of you who aren't where we are in this locality, perhaps you might like to think about it where you are. There's a line in the film Field of Dreams that says, "Build it and they will come." I don't think that applies to the church. I think it's a case much more of we need to go. In the name of the Holy One in whom we live and move and have our being. Amen. Blessings.